The notification alert on my phone buzzed at 2:17 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. Credit monitoring app. New inquiry on your credit report. First National Bank. Loan application, $200,000. I stared at the screen sitting in my parked car outside the grocery store. I hadn't applied for any loans. Opening my banking app, I checked my credit report. There it was, a hard inquiry from First National Bank for a commercial real estate loan, submitted the previous day using my social security number, employment information, and even my electronic signature. And I knew exactly who had access to all of that. My sister Rebecca had been living in my guest room for 6 months, supposedly saving money to get back on her feet after her divorce. During that time, she'd had plenty of opportunities to photograph my documents, memorize my SSN, and observe my digital signatures on legitimate transactions. When I got home, Rebecca was in the kitchen making lunch with groceries I'd bought. She looked up cheerfully when I walked in. "Hey sis, how was your day?" "Interesting," I said, setting my purse on the counter. "I got a credit alert about a loan application I didn't submit." Rebecca's expression didn't change. "That's weird. Probably identity theft. You should call the bank and report it." "Good idea," I said. "I'll do that right now." I called First National Bank and spoke with a loan officer named Marcus Chin. After verifying my identity, he pulled up the application. "Yes, Miss Davis. We have your commercial real estate loan application here. $200,000 to purchase a rental property on Maple Street. It was submitted electronically yesterday with all required documentation." "I didn't submit that application," I said firmly. "Someone used my personal information without my permission." "I see. We'll need to investigate this. Can you come in tomorrow to review the application and provide a statement?" "Absolutely. What time?" "How about 2 p.m.? Bring photo ID and any evidence of fraud you might have." After hanging up, I watched Rebecca finish her sandwich. She was scrolling through real estate listings on her phone, muttering things like, "Perfect investment property. This neighborhood is really up and coming." That evening, while she was out with friends, I went into my home office and began documenting everything. As a software security specialist, I was meticulous about digital evidence. I pulled up security footage from my office camera. There she was, Rebecca, sitting at my desk 2 days earlier using my computer while I was at work. For over 3 hours, she accessed my email, photographed documents from my filing cabinet, and practiced forging my signature on scratch paper. Keylogger data confirmed she'd accessed my password manager, copied my bank details, and downloaded my tax returns and pay stubs. My network logs showed her laptop had connected to my Wi-Fi and uploaded large files to a cloud storage account. She'd been systematically stealing my identity. But the most damning evidence came from my smart home system. My digital assistant records audio when triggered by certain keywords like loan application and signature. In one recorded conversation, Rebecca told someone named Marcus, "I need this loan, her credit's better. She'll never find out. I'll just use her info, get the money, buy the property, and pay her back from the rent." In another, she said, "My sister's so trusting. She never checks her credit or bank statements. I could get away with this for months." The next day, I arrived at First National Bank with a thick folder of printed evidence. Marcus Chin reviewed the file and frowned. "This is sophisticated fraud. Whoever did this had extensive access to your personal information." "I know exactly who did it," I said quietly. "My sister, Rebecca." His eyes widened. "You have proof?" I showed him the video footage on my phone. Rebecca sitting at my desk forging my signature. Marcus immediately called the FBI Financial Crimes Division. Within 2 hours, Special Agent Sarah Martinez arrived. She flipped through my evidence, clearly impressed. "Miss Davis, this is some of the most comprehensive fraud documentation I've ever seen. Video logs, audio recordings. This case is ironclad." "She doesn't know I record and log everything in my home," I said. "She assumed I'd never find out, or that I wouldn't have proof if I did." Agent Martinez nodded. "According to your timeline, she's been planning this for at least 2 weeks. This is premeditated. We'll execute a search warrant and likely charge her with bank fraud, identity theft, and computer crimes, all federal felonies." "What kind of sentence are we talking about?" I asked. 5 to 10 years in federal prison." That evening, Rebecca was in the living room, excitedly scrolling through real estate listings again. Sarah, look at this property. Perfect for a rental. 3 bedrooms, great neighborhood, under market value. I'm thinking about making an offer. That sounds expensive, I said casually. How are you planning to finance it? Oh, I've got some money saved, she said vaguely. Plus, I might get a loan soon based on my income potential. I smiled. That makes sense. Banking relationships are important. Rebecca grinned. Exactly. I've already started the process with First National Bank. They're really impressed with my financial profile. The next morning I was at work when my phone rang. It was Rebecca, panicked. Sarah, there are FBI agents at your house. They have a search warrant. They're asking about loan applications and bank fraud. What's going on? I have no idea, I said calmly. You should cooperate with them completely. They're taking my laptop and my phone. They said something about document fraud and identity theft. This is insane. Just tell them the truth, Rebecca. If you haven't done anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. 2 hours later, Agent Martinez called. We've arrested your sister. She initially denied everything, but when we showed her the video, she confessed. She said she planned to pay the loan back, so she didn't think it was theft. I sighed. She never understood that intent doesn't erase fraud. She'll be arraigned tomorrow morning, Agent Martinez said. With the evidence you provided, the prosecutor expects a conviction. That evening my phone buzzed nonstop, relatives calling, shocked and divided. Some were sympathetic. Others accused me of destroying the family. But I didn't feel guilt, only relief. For 6 months, Rebecca had been living under my roof, eating my food, smiling to my face, while planning to steal my identity. And now justice had finally caught up. My mother called, crying. How could you have your own sister arrested? Family should stick together during difficult times. Mom, I said, keeping my voice steady, Rebecca committed federal crimes using my identity. She could have destroyed my credit and left me liable for $200,000 in fraudulent debt. But she's going through a divorce, Mom insisted. She needed help, not criminal charges. She needed help, so she decided to commit identity theft? How does that make sense? My brother Michael had a different reaction. I can't believe Rebecca was stupid enough to try this with you. Doesn't she know you document everything? Apparently not, I said. She thought I was too trusting and disorganized to catch her. My cousin Lisa, however, was furious. You could have just told Rebecca no if you didn't want to co-sign a loan. There was no reason to destroy her life with criminal charges. Lisa, I didn't co-sign anything, I replied. Rebecca forged my signature and stole my identity to commit bank fraud. This isn't about refusing to help her. It's about her committing federal crimes. You're being dramatic, Lisa scoffed. It's just paperwork. It's $200,000 in fraudulent debt that I would have been legally responsible for, I said firmly. If her plan had worked, I could have lost my house, my savings, and my credit rating. The preliminary hearing was held a week later. I testified about the evidence I'd collected and explained how Rebecca had systematically gathered my personal information over several weeks. Her defense attorney tried to portray the fraud as a misunderstanding between sisters, claiming Rebecca believed she had my permission to use my information. But the recorded phone calls, where she explicitly said she was taking advantage of my trusting nature and that I'd never find out, completely undermined that defense. The prosecutor played one recording in court. My sister is so trusting and disorganized. She never checks her credit reports or bank statements carefully. I can probably get away with this for months before she notices anything. The judge was not sympathetic. Miss Davis, he said sternly, regardless of your personal circumstances, loan fraud involving $200,000 is a serious federal crime. The evidence shows clear premeditation and deception. Rebecca was bound over for trial on charges of bank fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and computer crimes. Bail was set at $75,000, which she couldn't afford. While Rebecca sat in federal detention awaiting trial, I received a visit from her divorce attorney, David Walsh. Miss Davis, he began, I represent your sister in her divorce proceedings. I wanted to discuss the impact of these criminal charges on her case. What kind of impact? I asked. Well, he said, her ex-husband is now seeking full custody of their children, citing the federal fraud charges as evidence that Rebecca is unfit as a parent. He's also requesting a psychological evaluation before any custody agreement. I see. Rebecca asked me to speak with you about possibly dropping the charges. She's willing to plead guilty to lesser charges if you'll ask the prosecutor to reduce the penalties. Mr. Walsh, I said carefully, these are federal charges. I can't drop them even if I wanted to. The FBI and federal prosecutors are handling this case based on evidence of serious crimes. But you're the victim, he pressed. Your opinion carries weight. My opinion, I said, is that someone who commits premeditated fraud involving $200,000 should face appropriate legal consequences. Rebecca didn't make a mistake. She planned and executed a sophisticated scheme to steal my identity and defraud a bank. David Walsh sighed. Miss Davis, your sister is facing 8 to 10 years in federal prison. Her children will grow up without their mother. Is that really what you want? What I wanted, I replied, was for Rebecca to get legitimate help with her financial problems instead of committing federal crimes using my identity. She made her choices. 3 months later, facing overwhelming evidence and the likelihood of a lengthy trial, Rebecca accepted a plea bargain. She pled guilty to bank fraud and identity theft in exchange for a reduced sentence of 4 years in federal prison. At the sentencing hearing, Rebecca was allowed to make a statement. Your Honor, I know what I did was wrong. I was desperate after my divorce and thought I could handle this without anyone getting hurt. I never meant to damage my sister's credit or put her in financial jeopardy. She turned to look at me in the gallery. Sarah, I'm sorry. I know you trusted me and I betrayed that trust. I thought I could fix everything before you found out, but I realize now how stupid and selfish that was. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. She was also ordered to pay $25,000 in restitution for the bank's investigation costs. After the sentencing, Agent Sarah Martinez found me in the courthouse hallway. How do you feel about the outcome? She asked. Relieved, I admitted. Rebecca needed to face consequences, but I'm glad she accepted responsibility instead of forcing a trial. Your documentation made this case airtight, Agent Martinez said. Without your digital evidence, it would have been much harder to prove premeditation and sophisticated planning. I nodded. I learned early in my cybersecurity career that digital crimes always leave digital evidence. Rebecca thought I was too trusting or too naive to catch her. 6 months later, I received a letter from Rebecca, written from federal prison. Dear Sarah, I've had a lot of time to think about what I did and why I did it. I was angry about my divorce, scared about my financial future, and jealous of your stability and success. Instead of asking for help or finding legitimate solutions, I chose to betray your trust. I know now that my actions could have destroyed your financial life. If the bank had approved that loan, you would have been legally responsible for $200,000 in debt you didn't create. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I understand now why you reported me. You weren't trying to ruin me, you were protecting yourself. The other inmates say I should be angry at you for snitching, but you didn't snitch. You documented the truth. There's a difference. I hope someday we can rebuild our relationship, but I understand if you can't trust me again. I proved that I was willing to destroy your life to fix mine, and that's not something easily forgiven. Rebecca. I never responded. Rebecca served 3.5 years of her 4-year sentence and was released on good behavior. She now lives in another state and has supervised visitation with her children every other weekend. Our mother still believes I should have handled it within the family. She insists Rebecca's punishment was too harsh for what she calls a family misunderstanding. But loan fraud isn't a family misunderstanding. Identity theft isn't a family problem. When someone systematically collects your personal information, forges your signature, and submits fraudulent loan applications using your identity, that's a federal crime, no matter who they are. Rebecca gambled that family loyalty would protect her from consequences. She assumed I'd be too shocked, too embarrassed, or too focused on keeping peace to pursue charges. He was wrong. Family relationships don't create immunity from the law. Trust broken by premeditated fraud can't be repaired by a simple apology. Someone willing to destroy your financial life to solve their own problems has shown you exactly how much your welfare means to them. I kept detailed records not just because cybersecurity is my profession, but because predators, even within families, count on their victims being too trusting or too afraid to fight back. Rebecca spent weeks planning her fraud, confident I'd never discover it, or never have the courage to act. The security cameras, network logs, and audio recordings proved her wrong. Sometimes, protecting yourself means prosecuting the people who are supposed to love you. Sometimes family loyalty means staying loyal to what's right, not to the people who've chosen to do wrong. And sometimes the ones who say, handle it within the family, are the same ones who would never risk their own financial safety to protect yours. The sound of Rebecca's front door bursting open that morning wasn't just the sound of justice. It was the sound of consequences catching up to someone who believed family ties would shield her from federal law. They didn't.